Okay, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns about recovery, Richie right here is a resource. Don't hesitate to give him a shout out. Peace, guys.
Giving an addict money, an act of addiction, is like giving a suicidal person a loaded handgun. You are literally giving them the ability to kill themselves. And I know that's hard to hear, so I'll start this with a disclaimer. I'm not saying any of you are bad parents or bad spouses or bad friends for enabling your loved ones. But I'm here to tell you the truth, that enabling does kill people, and stopping enabling is our number one weapon that we have to help get our loved ones help. So if you're watching this video, you're here because you want to know how to help your loved one if they don't want to go get help, right? That's the number one question I get asked all the time. Richie, how can I help my loved one into treatment if they don't want help? The first thing that you need to do is to, if you haven't done so already, message me on Facebook. Maybe you came here from my Facebook, right? The first thing you need to do is message me so I can get you treatment resources. There's a link down below for where you can go to get treatment resources from me on Facebook. Now, if you're watching this video, you're at the next part. How do I convince them to go to treatment if they say they don't want help or they say they don't need help? It starts with a few simple steps. The number one step, the absolutely most important thing that you can possibly do to help your loved one, is to stop giving them money. Stop giving them money. You're literally giving them the bullets to kill themselves, the means to kill themselves. Every time you give an addict money, whether they say it's for food or they say it's for cigarettes or whatever it may be, 99% of the time they're going to use the vast majority of that money for drugs or alcohol. I promise you. I was an addict for over 7 years. I've been clean for 5. I've been helping people for over three plus years. And I've helped thousands of families through the same exact problem. And I can tell you firsthand knowledge that if you give your loved one money, they are going to use it to get high or to get drunk. So number one is to stop giving them money. Now, when you do these steps that I'm about to tell you, there's several steps and you can do them at your own pace. Again, the number one step that I say is to first message me so I can get you resources and help walk you through this process. If you're watching this video, you're ready to enact the process now, right? And to also sit down with them and talk to them and say, you know, I love you very much, but I'm not going to enable you. I'm not going to allow you to continue killing yourself. Once you have that conversation, you tell them, look, you have two choices. The first choice is to go to treatment, and that's why it's so vital that you guys message me first so you know where they can go to treatment. You don't want to sit down with them and tell them, hey, we've got you options for treatment that don't exist. You want to know what options are available. So you sit down and say, hey, I've got you set up at this rehab in this location. You can either go to the treatment center and get help and save your life, or I'm not going to give you money anymore. That's the first step. Now the next step, some of you might say, well, Richie, I don't give my loved one money. They still don't want help. What do I do? Well, there are several more steps that may seem a little more difficult than stopping giving someone money, right? The cutting off the money thing, that's probably the easiest step in this whole process. The next ones get a little difficult, and I don't expect you to do them overnight, but it's very conscious to be awake and aware of how to proceed next with these steps. They are absolutely vital to saving your loved one's life. When their family reaches out, 80% of the time they have to enact these steps in order for them to get help. Very rarely do people go and get help because they actually want to. That old phrase that people say, you can only get clean if you want to get clean, if you're ready to get clean, that's dead. With the heroin epidemic, with the fentanyl epidemic, that line is nothing but bullshit. It's literally killing people, because if you let people continue to shoot drugs on the street, we don't have 10 years for them to hit their rock bottom. We're lucky for them to have 10 days. Sometimes we're lucky for them to have 10 hours. So we have to force them to hit their rock bottom sooner and to give them two tough choices. It's either A, you go to treatment and get help, or B, we're not giving you help anymore. So that's why these next steps, while they're difficult, and I know firsthand they're difficult, I've been the addict that had to stop being enabled to get help. I've also loved an addict that I had to stop enabling to not only save them, but to save myself. So after you cut off the money, if they're still not ready to get help after a day or two, what you do is you sit down with them again. Maybe you have some other close friends or family nearby, and you say, again, I love you very much. I'm not going to enable you to continue killing yourself. So these are the things that are going to happen if you don't go to treatment. 1, I'm not giving you money anymore. 2, I'm not giving you a place to stay anymore, and I know this is the most difficult one. So hear me out on this step. This is the big hurdle that most parents or loved ones or spouses or friends or family have to overcome. Is you say, well, Richie, if I kick them out on the street, what if they overdose and die out in the street? What if they rob somebody to pay for their drugs? What if somebody robs them? What if somebody beats them up? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you firsthand that your loved one has just as much of a chance of overdosing in your bathroom as they do in a park or under a park bench. They have just as much of a chance of committing a crime, whether they're living at your house or whether they're not living at your house. They have just as much of a chance of going to jail. And honestly, these are your two outcomes here, right? You can either continue to enable them, or you can set some healthy boundaries in place for them to get help. And these are the scenarios that occur. 1, you continue to enable them. There are 3 possible scenarios that will occur. 1 is that they overdose and die. 2 is that they keep getting high. And 3, and in this scenario where you continue to enable them, you continue to allow them to get high and get drunk or whatever it may be. 3, and this is like the best case scenario, in this scenario, unfortunately, is 3 is that they go to jail. And at least if they go to jail, you know they're safe. You know that they're not on the streets getting high. And you know that for a moment you can breathe. And I'm going to take this moment of time and opportunity and leave a comment down below if you've done this so other parents know that they're not alone. How many of you have you bailed your loved one out of jail when you knew that they were just going to get out and get high? Or maybe they said, Mom, I promise I'm not going to get high. These 3 days of withdrawals were terrible. I'll never do it again. I know personally myself, I've said that to my parents dozens and dozens of times. If your loved one's in jail, do not bail them out of jail until you 100% have a place for treatment for them to go, and the full understanding and ability to enforce that they will enter into that treatment center. The other possibility, as I mentioned, you can either continue to enable them and they will either die, they will either continue to get high, or they will go to jail. The alternative to that is to stop enabling them. Now, what happens when you stop enabling them? What are the 3 outcomes that can occur then? Well, there's hope here, because you now have the possibility that they will accept that help. And 90% of the time, when you stop enabling them, usually within a day or 2, they agree to go to treatment. And here's why. Because when you're a drug addict and you don't have money and you don't have a place to stay, it becomes much more difficult to get high, especially when you're dealing with some of these younger kids. It's a lot more difficult for them to continue to function and to get high, and they usually agree to go to treatment. This works for younger kids in their teens and their 20s, it works for 30-year-olds, it works for 40-year-olds, and all ages above. So you have the possibility of them accepting treatment, which usually occurs. 2, they could go out on the street, and yeah, they could go to jail. Sure, they could go out on the street and they could end up overdosing and dying. But if that happens, you can at least sleep peacefully knowing you did everything in your power to try and get them into treatment where they can save their life. If you continue enabling them, unfortunately, you have to live with that fact that you didn't do anything to help them get clean. You didn't do anything to help get them to the one place in the world that can save their life. Think of it this way. Most of you watching this video probably believe that addiction is a disease, or at some capacity you at least acknowledge and know that it affects the brain in a way that we don't make the most logical choices when we're in active addiction. So if this was any other chronic disease, right, and you knew that your loved one just needed to go get into treatment, would you not do everything in your power to get them there? If your loved one was battling cancer, would you not go to the ends of the earth to make sure that they were in treatment somehow, that they were receiving the treatment that they needed? It's no different with addiction. We can't approach it any other way. We need to do everything in our power to get our loved ones into treatment. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notification button as well. If you don't hit the notification button, you're not going to get updates of when I put out my latest videos. So if you're struggling with addiction, or you have someone that you love struggling with addiction, this is the place you need to be to learn everything you can to be successful.
What's up, guys? Mike Situation here, and I got a buddy named Richie, and he runs a non-profit called Fight for Recovery. He's got 5 years clean and sober. The Situation's got 4 years clean and sober. If Richie can do it, if the Situation can do it, you can do it, okay? If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns about recovery, Richie right here is a resource. don't hesitate to give them a shout out. Peace, guys.
Hey guys, if you're watching this video and you know somebody that could really benefit from seeing a video like this, whether they are enabling their loved one or whether they need some help, tips, and tricks of how to get their loved one into treatment, please send this video to them.